Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Table and Plate Project Delta podcast. Each place has its own culture and vibe, and you're joining me, Dr. Ellen Harris, as I learn, explore, discover, experience, and talk about food and culture in the Mississippi Delta. Today, I want to share a bit more about me, and I've decided to put it in the context of why I garden and cook what I grow. First, let me say I've been told more than a few times that I'm all over the place. And you know what? It's true. It's how my mind works. But all that I do is what makes me, me. I'm a black woman who has lived in the Mississippi Delta for almost 4 years now. I lived in the D.C. metro area for 30 years, and I'm originally from 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas, which is why the umbrella for what I do socially is called 3rd Ward Zen. I have a doctorate in public health nutrition and have worked in my field in some form or fashion for about 36 years as a WIC nutritionist, a university professor, a Congressional Black Caucus Fellow, a Fulbright Senior Scholar, and career manager turned executive in the federal government. I suppose I've earned my street creds doing all that. Through it all, I like to think I've remained true to myself and where I come from. I'm probably a little rough around the edges, loud, blunt, and direct to a fault. I sort of credit that to being the fact that I am a native Texan. I don't beat around the bush, don't suffer bullshit lightly, and I must have some kind of savvy and chutzpah because I've had folks tell me I must have 9 lives for all the craziness I've experienced over the years. October 20th marks the 20th year I've been a widow. My husband was a Philadelphia man, and we were total opposites. But I loved how he used to tell me, "Ellen, you're not in charge here." Guess that's why I haven't really hooked up with anybody else all this time, because I haven't met anybody else who I guess had the nerve or whatever to say that to me since. I'm still looking for him though. August 2020 marks my 10th year surviving breast cancer that luckily was caught very early. That experience is what brought me back to yoga. I'd practiced it off and on since college. Actually, I taught myself from a book. After my cancer treatment, my friend Inga told me about a retreat in North Carolina. Turns out the sister that led the retreat had a studio about 20 minutes or so from where I lived at the time in Maryland. The retreat and classes by Dana at Spiritual Essence Yoga and Wellness Center led me to her teacher trainings, and I was hooked. I became a 500-hour certified yoga instructor and wellness coach, plus certified in Thai yoga massage and Reiki. I love the healing aspects of yoga. Yes, I practice the physical asanas or movements to keep my body in tune, but starting with the breath and meditation bring a gentleness to my spirit that nurtures me to my core. I view them as gifts that I also want to share with others. Yoga on and off the mat helped me move beyond the diagnosis, treatment, and survival of cancer. It provided the foundation for seeking other things that nurtured me, that added strength and gentleness to my spirit. Which brings me to today. As I said, I'm real, y'all. I'm not religious, but spiritual. I'm a black woman from 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas, who lives in the Mississippi Delta. I know who I am. I've traveled the world. I lived in Zimbabwe and traveled the continent. But I don't talk about African culture as if it's a single thing, because Africa is a damn country, or continent rather. People speak of it a lot as a country, but it's a continent with 54 countries and hundreds of cultures. From that bit of heightened expression on my part, I guess you can tell that's a sensitive point for me. Now, don't get it twisted. While I may not wear African garb or speak Swahili, I truly am a woman of the African diaspora. I am not a minority. I am a citizen of the world, which means getting out there, seeing the world, learning and respecting its people and cultures. I want to be an example to my people and contribute to their well-being. I guess that's why I chose public health nutrition as a career. We are a strong people. We have to be for all the shit thrown at us, and yet we continue to survive. The degree to which we survive, however, is the conflating question which brings me to why I garden, harvest, and cook what I grow. So to stay strong in mind, body, and spirit, I want to show how yoga off the mat is intimately connected to what I eat. And to do that, I must either grow my food or know for darn sure where it comes from. Being connected to what I eat this way gives me power. It gives me power to reject the food apartheid that exists in so many black and brown communities. And what do I mean by food apartheid? To put it bluntly, it's seeing 50 million zillion dollar stores, fast food joints, and no decent access to good food regardless of your income. So I garden. I have 2 3-foot wide by 10-foot wide long raised beds where for the past 3.5 years I've grown cucumbers, tomatoes, okra, kale, zucchini, squash, basil, oregano, and sweet and hot peppers. Although I didn't do it this year, for 2 years I also grew watermelons and cantaloupes in a melon patch just on the side of my garage. There's power in growing your own food. I save money. I smile every time when the foods I grow aren't on my grocery shopping list. The food I grow tastes 10 times better. And I just plain old love to walk outside and pick my harvest for the day. This power also means that I gain wisdom because I'm learning each day, sometimes trial by error, but I'm learning how to grow food. I gain confidence and pride in achievement. To see my tiny plants grow, flower, and fruit fills me with pride and joy. And because of the confidence I've gained, I'm going to try my hand at year-round gardening and starting with seeds. The more I grow, the more variety I'll add to my harvest, the more I'll learn about preserving food and determining my food consumption footprint. All the while, I'm gaining a greater appreciation for nature, life, and living. Oh goodness, my first year in the Delta, I thought I wouldn't make it gardening. When fire ants built hills in my raised beds and critters, all kind of critters like birds and squirrels and rabbits and insects, even a darn cat attacked my plants. And Calvin, the guy that cuts my grass, told me, "You're going to have stuff in the garden. You live in the Delta." Those words of wisdom calmed me the hell down, and I've been good ever since. What I harvest, I'm extremely grateful for. In fact, I'm in total awe that I've grown what I harvest. Goodness, I practically went crazy the first time I saw an okra flower bloom. The yellow petals and deep purple pistil centers are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I'd never seen an okra flower before. I even knew they existed. And I'm especially grateful that I can share with friends and neighbors the fruits of my labor. Growing some of my food also has led me to be a more creative cook. I've always considered myself to be a fairly good cook. I've got a nice cookbook collection, but never completely follow a recipe. I always have to doctor it up and add my own twist to it. The past few years, I've even started saying, cook what you got, which means create a meal with the harvest at the time and add other ingredients on hand. As a result, I've either cooked some really great dishes or created some delicious salads. This probably has led to some people thinking I'm a vegetarian, but I'm not. I've always loved lots of vegetables and can eat them as a main course without meat. That's Mama and my tanks, my grandmother's doing. But remember when I said I was real? Well, the real me has lived in and knows of places on this earth where people don't have the luxury of saying what they want or don't want to eat. They eat what's available. In that regard, I eat what's available. And with no disrespect to folks who are vegetarians or vegan, if that means seafood, poultry, and even some red meat on occasion is available, I'm eating it. But to tell you the truth, the more you eat what I like to say a plant-based diet, the less you want of meat. But I have not completely eliminated it from my diet. I like to think my gut will be prepared for whatever Armageddon brings, because it may come someday, y'all. At any rate, I've shared a little bit more about myself and especially why I garden, harvest, and cook what I grow. If there's anybody out there in the Mississippi Delta that would like to hold a conversation with me about food and culture here in the Delta, give me a holler on my Facebook Grits and Gumbo group page or my Instagram at Third Ward Zen. I'd love to feature you on the Table and Plate Project Delta podcast. Later, y'all. Take care and stay safe.